to prevent Muslims from repeating history, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us a lot of things about the Banu Israel. The first part of Surah al-Baqarah is about this. Now remember, Surah al-Fatiha tells, we ask Allah that to guide us to the straight path. And in Surah al-Baqarah is the answer here. This book, this Qur'an is the answer to all of it. And it starts off with, there are believers who believe, and there are disbelievers who don't believe, and there are munafiqs who pretend to believe. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes into receiving revelation. There's a context here that Surah al-Baqarah was the first surah to be revealed in Medina. So what happened is when the Muslims were in Mecca, they were living in as oppressed minorities in a non-Muslim land, you could say. And the ayat or the surahs that were revealed there were mainly about the oneness of Allah, Jannah, Jahannam, those types of things. And now once they've moved into Medina now they're not minorities anymore. They will be the first legitimate Islamic state now, legitimate Islamic state. So what happened is there Muslims have they don't need to worry that much about saving the lives or all these other fears they had while living in Mecca. Now here, this resembles when the Banu Israel and the Jews lived in Egypt under the Pharaoh as oppressed slaves, and then they did the Exodus, crossed the River Nile, and they ended up in Palestine, and they became the dominant nation there, that they had their own land in Palestine. It resembles that. Now Musa alayhi salam's stories, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah al-Baqarah about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them to do this and do that, but they did exactly the opposite, or they did something else, or they did something that's contrary to the spirit of that question in the first place. So for example, Allah tells them, it's called Surah al-Baqarah for a reason. It's not just because there's a mention of a cow here. Islam is a bit more sophisticated than that. There's a story about the cow that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them to slaughter a cow, and they were mocking it. They didn't take it seriously, and I think, what kind of thing is this? Why is Allah telling us to slaughter a cow? They're okay then, all they had to do is just slaughter a cow and get over and done with it. But they would think, we don't know what type of a cow is it. Then Allah will have to tell them, okay, it's this age and that age, and they say, but what color should it be? We don't really know about cows. Can you tell us a bit more about it? We want to be very, very specific. These are petty questions that's being, it's unnecessary, it's hair splitting, it's being pedantic. These are silly, petty questions. All they have to do is just slaughter a cow and get it over and done with. But this is an example of how nitty-gritty they get, and what these things lead to, and it eventually did lead to, is inter-religious sectarianism, that they start fighting one another, and they start being they were disunited throughout history. This has been the case in Jewish history. And we're not being anti-Semitic here. We're not criticizing the Jews for making mistakes. We're saying that they were believers. They were the Muslims of the time. They are us, basically, that we are Muslims following the scripture. They were Muslims following their scripture, and they had made mistakes, and we need to look at their mistakes to not do it ourselves. And we have to be critical. We have to be reflective to not do that ourselves, because now that the Muslims were living in Medina, they're going to receive law now. In Mecca, they didn't have laws. Well, not many anyway. In Medina, now laws are coming. Now zakat is coming. Now fasting is coming. Now hajj is coming. Now hijab is coming. Now the banning of alcohol is. All these things happen in Medina. Now, Allah tells the believers in Surah al-Baqarah how the Banu Israel were told to act upon Allah's teachings, but they didn't, or they went against the spirit of it. So all of that is there at the beginning of the Qur'an. So when the law comes to Muslims, we don't make those same mistakes. That's where we have the ayat of talaq, or the very first thing is switching the qibla. They used to pray towards this day, now turn 180 degrees and pray the other way. So now, do you submit to that, or do you think, hold on a minute, we've been praying towards the Jerusalem for the last 16 months or 17 months, why are we suddenly facing towards Mecca for? No, it's not what the Sahaba did. It came from Allah, khalas, we turn around and we're praying towards Mecca now. Yeah. So this is the point of it. The questioning of Banu Israel was not critical. It was not inquiry. It was not about growth, and it's not about developing as people and as a community. They were about it was unnecessary questions, hair-splitting questions, trying to, squiggle their way out of the law, those types of things. So this is, it was wrong, and the Quran is rebuking it, and it tells us Muslims not to make the same mistakes. So instead, we use our common sense in understanding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's commands. We have laws, we have rules, and we have guidelines on how to understand them, and we readily submit to them. And we have to maintain unity as one ummah, as one people, instead of being petty and debating over nitty-gritty issues that existed like 800 years ago, 900 years ago, and we're fighting about it to this day, and pretending, oh yes, we're Muslims, we're one ummah, and then, we're basically fighting with each other. That's exactly what the Banu Israel did. You think they're all together, but their hearts are disunited. And they're notorious for that. There's if you look into Jewish history will tell you about this itself. There's obviously reasons why, if you look at Nebuchadnezzar II and, what happened there during the destruction of the temple, so many things have happened, which we don't really have the time to go into. This is really, really important. The point is, the Banu Israel's questioning was uncritical. It wasn't critical. It wasn't reflective. It's not with the intention to grow and learn. Their questioning was about being petty, having little details that doesn't actually matter. It honestly didn't matter. Even if they did make a mistake, even if, let's say, they were told to slaughter a cow, they did slaughter a cow, but, maybe it wasn't supposed to be this type of cow, it's supposed to be that type of cow. Allah would forgive people at that time. These aren't things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is expecting of us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, He cares for us. He's not out there to get us. He's not out there to be like, oh, I'm going to create some human beings, and when they do something, I'm going to get them. No, that's not the point here. He's our Rabb, He's our nurturer. He wants to see us cultivated and grown and mature human beings, and He wants us to act in line of, be civilized human beings in light of His law. That's what He wants us to do. So even if we do make little mistakes here and there, that due to our negligence of something, but we tried our best in understanding what He wants us to do, and we submitted to it, He will forgive that. So we need to understand all of this. And the evidence of this is in the next hadith here. That this is also the meaning of the famous hadith. Da'uni ma taraktukum. Let me be as I let you be. But don't just ask me all these nitty-gritty questions. Oh, I've cut my nail. Does that break my wudu? Okay, fair enough. That you might have to ask the first time. But then you think, okay, so that was this nail. But what about I've cut all my nails? Do I have to do wudu now? Or what about this? Does watching TV break your wudu? Does looking into a mirror break your wudu? All of these types of questions. Well, somebody had a dream and this happened in the dream. Does that mean I have to do this? And then somebody else sees, and you answer that question. Somebody else will see another dream, and then that person will find out about that dream and ask you exactly the same question again. Then go, hold on a minute. Look, we've given you the answer. This is what it is. You don't need to be nitty-gritty. You don't need to have OCD about things, basically. What you need to do is have a set of principles, a set of laws, a set of rules, and you can use these rules to figure out what to do and what not to do in certain situations. Anyway, so look, the Prophet ﷺ is telling us, everybody, let me be as I let you be. The people before you were doomed because of their excessive questioning and differing with their prophets. That their excessive, uncritical, petty, hair-splitting questionings, that's what led them to doom. So when I forbid you from something, just refrain from it. If I tell you don't do this, just don't do it. If I tell you to do something, then do whatever you can of it. If you can do it, whatever you can, do it. Now here, look, even if you can't do something, or if you can't 100% do something, but you've done about 80% of it because that's what you can do. That's all you have to do. Whatever is within your capacity, that's all you have to do. That's it, simple. We don't need to go beyond that and make the same mistakes as the people before. So this is the context of we hear and we obey and other such verses. It's not talking about an uncritical engagement or a blind faith.